Hola, you amazing artists. You go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Rafi's tips for artists because he loves you.
Hola, you amazing artist, and welcome back to the studio. I don't know why I always welcome you back to the studio. You know you're going to see us here, but this is a video all about inspiration.
Yeah.
Which is great because we're in the studio, and in our studio we are surrounded by inspiration.
Inspiration strikes everywhere. Question comes from Shawan.
Hey, Shawan!
Hi, Shawan! And for anyone who's interested in seeing Shawan's creations, she's on Instagram at Tuda Made It. This is my new bag by Tuda Made It, and it is the most beautiful, beautiful bag. It's my favorite bag ever of all time. To say that I love this bag is an understatement.
Clee's got a new bag.
Me and this bag have a long-term thing started. And Shawan listens to our podcast, watches our YouTube vids, and is one of our patrons on Patreon.
She's so awesome.
Yeah, she is. Okay, so her awesome question goes like this. First of all, let me say, I enjoy the perspective that you both have on life and work. Thank you, Shawan.
Thank you.
I appreciate all that you two are doing in the community. As an artist and maker, I'm inspired by many things. I like to sew, cook, and draw, so when I see something interesting, one of the little hamsters upstairs gets to running. An idea springs to mind. Before the first hamster stops for its break, I see something else, and I get inspired again. Now I have 2 hamsters running. Could you give us some tips on what to do when the hamsters of inspiration have run you into a corner and leave you frozen in indecision? This happens like all the time because we tend to like a lot of things.
We do.
And I have some varied perspectives on this because I've gone at this in many different ways. So first off, sometimes the best time to follow up an inspiration is right in the moment that it happens. Otherwise, it's gone forever.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I had inspiration to do something and I worked on it right then and there, and I was like, thank the stars I did that because I don't think I could have created this any other time.
A lot of times when inspiration strikes, I'll write down my idea. Like a lot of times I'll have like a bunch of little like fuzzy ideas here and there, and I'll write them into my book so that if I do have a moment of dryness of inspiration, then I'm able to refer back to my book.
Yes, we definitely always have multiple projects going on, not just with our main areas of painting and jewelry, but with music, with other things that we're interested in, with media stuff, with things that we want to add to the repertoire of things that we do. We always have many, many things going. And we do keep notebooks where we can sketch ideas or at least write them down. If it's something you can't jump on right this second, then at least you have it there and waiting. But I learned a long time ago from a friend of mine who the minute inspiration would hit her, she would just get to it. Like it didn't even matter. She could be in the middle of a conversation with me, and next thing you knew, she was running out of the room to go get like a potato and a set of skewers and whatever else she needed to conceptualize the idea right then and there. And I was like, that's crazy. How does she operate that way? But that girl got a lot done in short amounts of time.
You know what's interesting about that is that I've seen you bolt out of the shower.
Yes.
Which is hilarious to me because like I'll be in the studio painting, you can hear the shower still going, and then all of a sudden I see, you know,
on a handful of occasions that's almost resulted in injury. But luckily, I'll get ideas in the shower all the time, and then I'll like try to keep the hamster running while the shower is...
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
So I will bolt out of the shower to write things down sometimes. So here's the thing. One of the things that Shawan is talking about here is when you have multiple hamsters of inspiration going at once, sometimes it can be paralyzing. Like you're like, okay, now I don't know what to do. Like it's almost you have too much inspiration and you're like, backed into a corner, as she says.
It's what's interesting about that is that when you're creative and you're doing multimedia stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like we have the videos that we do, we have our music, we have Patreon, we have the artwork, we have jewelry, we have all these things. And so usually what ends up happening is when you're looking at all that stuff as a creative thing, like it all kind of ties in together. And because you're doing multiple things, it's easy to separate the projects there. Whereas like if I'm thinking of a painting idea and I'm in the middle of a painting, I might get that painting kind of started, like do the background just so that that inspiration that's there won't leave. Everything you do kind of goes into that place. And if you, A, don't write it down, or B, don't get started on it right away, it could easily get jumbled into a place of overwhelm.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything wrong with getting started on something and just having a lot of stuff going on. And then getting good at, getting better at, getting good at. I'm a single tasker. I self-identify as a single tasker.
Right.
But getting good at, A, prioritizing. And I don't mean like prioritizing. What I mean is like, what am I most interested in right now?
Right.
And also, is there anything that's time sensitive that I really want to focus on?
I mean, if you have a commission and you're working on a commission, like, for example, so I'm working on this commission. I do have a deadline that I've given myself for the commission and I gave to the customer. Now, am I able to extend that? Of course I am.
Yeah.
But my personal challenge when it comes to this is, can I finish it in the allotted time that I gave myself? So that a lot of times helps me to prioritize the different projects that I'm working on, whether I'm working on a commission for someone or I'm working on pieces for myself. I have to give myself some kind of deadline, understanding full well that the deadline is flexible, but give myself some kind of deadline and see it more not as a deadline. I hate the word deadline.
Deadline.
Seeing it more as a challenge to get it done by such and such date.
A personal challenge.
Yeah,
that's better than a deadline.
Because a lot of times, and realizing very, very clearly that if I give myself a long deadline, basically I'll be hemming and hawing on whatever it is that I'm working on throughout the entire process instead of just making decisions and moving forward with it.
Yeah.
So like usually my deadlines, my goals are very short just to see if I could do it. Can I do it?
Yeah.
A lot of times I miss it.
But a lot of times you don't. There's another element that I want to mention here, because we are by no means experts on, like, this subject or even time management. But you know who are? Kids. If you watch a kid, right, kids are constantly being inspired by stuff. And a kid might spend a half hour, an hour, sometimes 2-3 hours on something. And then when the kid's done with said thing, they're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I have actually found that I'm most efficient when I function like a kid. Like I do this for a little while, and then when I feel like I'm done with that or I'm no longer interested in that for the day, then shift gears and move on to the next thing.
And that's what compartmentalization comes in. So
Yeah.
it's not multitasking. You're not working on several things at once.
No, sequential order.
Yeah, it's in a sequential order. You may not know what the order is because it might just be like, oh, okay, I'm kind of done with this piece. And then you look around, you're like, yes, that's what I'm going to work on now.
Yeah, what am I most interested in working on right this minute? Even if it's for 5 minutes, even if you chunk it and then move on to a different thing.
Yeah. If you could get yourself excited to work on something, then I suggest you work on it right then and there. Because the other thing too is a lot of times when you put off a project and you're justifying putting off that project and you just keep putting off that project. Well, as a professional artist, I need to be doing this and I need to, like I get all serious and stuff. Instead of jumping on that project, what ends up happening is like you've stacked all those excuses on top of one another. And so just the event of getting started on that project
seems like a lot bigger deal.
Seems like a bigger deal. And that just adds to that overwhelm because now you've got this project that you want to work on. So a lot of times, like when I do have a commission that I know that is a little bit difficult, I'll just chunk it. I'll just get it started. And I try to do that every day while I have the project, because if there are any days that I give into the excuses telling me like, oh, well, maybe you're not in the mood or you're not whatever, it's easy for me to buy into those excuses and then it takes forever for me to get started on something. And I can tell you right now, if you want to feel overwhelmed, have a bunch of things that you're putting off,
just piling up.
Just like floating in the ether of your mind and try to get something else started, like you're going to feel overwhelmed.
This topic is really important because over the last 10 years, I've found myself asking myself, I wonder if I'll ever get to a point where all the things I have in my head that I want to do are completed. Like where
Right.
the slate is clean, right? Where I've accomplished all the things and I'm at a reset point. No. It's
No.
never happened.
No.
There's always things that I want to do. There's always things that are partially started. There's always things that are conceptually started but not started. There's always things that I want to add to what I'm currently doing. It never ends. You never reach the point where you're like, it's all done. Now
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
So getting good at, I'm just going to pick this thing and do it for 5 minutes or
Yep.
do it for an hour or whatever, and then I'm going to move on to this next thing, all in the spirit of good fun.
Yeah.
Because it's all play.
And not to mention that there are times where, like, maybe you have a harebrained idea and you're like, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to do this. And then you get started and you're like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the only way you're going to figure out if it sucks is if you get it started. If you do decide to write it down, which I recommend that even if you do get it started, you write it down. And whatever idea book that you have, just write down all your ideas. It's really hard for me when people say like, you know, I'm running out of ideas, or what if I run dry? What if my creativity runs dry? And I'm like, that is absolutely impossible. If you're feeling uninspired, it doesn't have anything to do with your creativity running dry. It has to do with you feeling overwhelmed or down about yourself and your abilities. But if you have that book, even if you are feeling down about yourself or your abilities, at least you have a creative agenda that you could refer back to.
Yeah, and you could look at it and reconnect with all that excitement that you were feeling at the time that you jotted down the idea.
Yeah. I think ultimately it's up to you to decide whether or not, like, you know what, this is an idea that I could write down because I could easily get excited about this later when I get started on it. Or it's just, you know what, this is good. It's kind of fuzzy. This is the beginnings of an idea. I always recommend writing that down right away. And if it's something that just is pulling you in that moment where you look around, you're like, I really need to do this right now. And I think we've all experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
Write it down and then just get started on it. Just dedicate 5 minutes to it. Just chunk it 5 minutes. And if inspiration takes you even further, then just stop when you're ready to stop on it. And then you've got this one project here, even though you're working on another project.
Yeah, and if you feel like I really need to get into this right now and your brain is like, that's irresponsible to do because you said you were going to do this, this, and this today, just be like, silence, brain.
Yeah,
This will only take however long it takes.
We're artists. We're not supposed to be responsible. The entire world thinks that we're completely irresponsible because we're artists. We might as well live up to that.
True. And if you can't decide between the things that you're like Shawan said, like her hamsters just drove her straight into the corner where she
Yeah.
didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Just pick one. Pick whichever one seems the most interesting in that moment because you can't get it wrong.
I mean, do it your way. I mean, if you write them down and you decide that you're just going to go in sequential order, do it that way. Make it a game. If you're looking at it as a game, like a very creative game and just having fun, whether or not you get it started now or you get it started later, doesn't matter. You're just going to get it started at some point in time because it's fun for you. And if you have an idea in there that like later on you're like, nah, then, you know, either cross it out or leave it there and maybe the inspiration will strike again. But either way, there's no wrong way to do it unless you are frozen in a corner. So the issue isn't that you have too many ideas. The issue is that you're allowing yourself to get overwhelmed by your ideas. So do whatever it takes to just get out of that place of overwhelm. You could do all of these. You could do none of them. There is no prerequisite for being an artist. You, Shawan, are already an amazing artist. So
Yes, indeed. It's funny how we tell ourselves those narratives like it's irresponsible, I don't have time, I can't possibly manage this. I think a lot of that is just like stuff we pick up along our trail as little
absolutely.
humans. Like, pick one thing and do it. Don't spread yourself too thin. Don't I don't know what else they
well,
say.
there's a bunch.
There's
of,
a lot.
there's a bunch of
Jack of all trades,
yeah, jack of all
master
trades,
of none.
Yeah, there's all kinds of very stupid sayings that just get passed down that people just repeat. They hear it somewhere because they were told it, and then they buy into it, and then they repeat it to their kids or everybody that they talk to.
And then all of
it's
a sudden, we all feel bad for having multiple
and
interests.
Then we're repeating it to ourselves, like, well, there just isn't time. Time is well, it's like just. You be irresponsible.
Little wild humans, i.e. children, before they learn that stuff, they are awesome at shifting gears and doing whatever they're interested in that moment.
Absolutely.
I strive to be more like that.
Yes.
Shawan, this is an awesome question. Thank you so much. Hopefully some of what we said was helpful. Hopefully we didn't give you more hamsters running into walls or corners.
Don't want to add to the hamsters.
Hopefully this helped us all to sort out our hamsters and get our hamsters going in directions that we want them.
Yeah.
They are hard to corral sometimes.
I mean, what I would recommend is let the hamsters run and, whatever crap you got in your brain jar, put a muzzle on that. Whatever's telling you, like, there's no way you're going to be able to do this, Shawan. You don't have enough time. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is that it's saying, just ignore all that stuff. And I'm curious to know how you guys handle things like that whenever, let's say you have a lot of ideas and you've got a bunch of hamsters running on wheels in your head. Like, what do you do? What are your techniques that you do? Do you write it down? Do you do the stuff that we do? Or do you have your own fascinating way of taking care of that? Just put that in the comment section below. And thank you so much for watching, you guys. You guys are absolutely freaking amazing. I totally adore you. And if you like this and you want to watch more like this, just click right over here to subscribe. And that's it. Say goodbye, Clee.
Good day.
Adios.